Good evening, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and call our Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, and it is 6:32 p.m. If we can all please have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I please have roll call?
Roll call. Chairperson Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Chair Nickerson.
Here.
Member Roman. Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Christy Alou, Village Manager, Interim Village Attorney, Norman Powell, and Chief Magnuson.
Excellent. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Make a motion to approve, Madam Mayor.
Agenda's been approved by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second? Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, our agenda for January 7th does pass. Have the members had an opportunity to review the minutes to the October 8th Public Safety Committee meeting? And if so, is there a motion to approve and adopt the minutes?
I haven't been able to review them.
I haven't.
So with that said, let's go ahead and table these minutes until our March Public Safety Committee meeting. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to a brand new year, a brand new decade. I wish each and every single one of you the best on this amazing new year. With that said, before we get started, before I call into good and welfare, as we start a new year, it's always an opportunity to do things better and do things right. On that note, I've asked and the manager and I had a meeting today briefly, and I've just asked the clerk briefly what I'd like to ensure that we do at every meeting and at every council meeting is really adhere to our decorum, which we tend to have not done so much in the last couple of months, in respect to people's time, in respect to families, in respect to those that have to hire babysitters to want to either come to work or to watch our meetings. It's really important that the chair of every committee and me as the lead on the council for our council meetings, that we adhere to the good and welfare to 3 minutes. With that said, the clock that was first that we had, I don't believe it's working. So the clerk, I've asked her to please ensure that we have a timer so that the those that are at the podium, be it a vendor, be it a resident, be it whoever it may be that needs to speak, that we adhere to the 3 minutes so that we can run our meetings in a proper decorum, but more importantly, in a respectable time manner, so those that are present can actually be here for the entire meeting. So I close on saying that I'm going to open up for good and welfare, and for all of those chairs for the other meetings to please repeat that at every meeting, and I'm going to repeat it at the council. And for the clerk, if we can please, if our timer does not work, let's get one, let's order one, and let's make sure that it is up and ready at the January council meeting so that we can start a brand new year doing things better, doing things right, and being that much more efficient and transparent to not only ourselves, but to the community and our residents as well. With that said, if there's anybody here in good and welfare that would like to come up for 3 minutes and address anything that relates to this committee and the agenda. All righty. Hearing none, we're going to kick it off with an update with our chief of police, who is going to give us a recap of how we ended 2019, some highlights for 2020, and then we're going to just go right into the tracking report. And then I asked the committee if you have any questions. At that time, we'll address them as he goes through the tracking report.
All right,
Chief,
good.
welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Just to start off, as we ended since our last meeting, there was a couple of things the police were involved with, and good things. The Christmas celebration gathering, the turkey giveaway over at the church, Christmas lighting ceremony. We also had a couple challenging times to end the year with a variety of different officers with some ailments and some issues that it really tasked us to a point where our part-time non-compensatory officers stepped up and came in and filled in the gaps. And you know, I knock wood as I say it because we ended the last part of 2019, December, thankfully, without much crime. Usually you don't see that so much, especially property crimes in December. This year you did. And I'm going to go over that in a few minutes so you get a whole gist of how the year went on and how it ended. It's not to rest on our laurels because yesterday and today we came across an area where a car was broken into now. Now we have two, and we do have a video, so we know there's a couple people on the prowl in the middle of the night. So we're going to set up on that, and I'm confident their actions will cease shortly thereafter. We just have to catch them, but we know whereabouts to be setting up on now. I think we were very fortunate from the time we had the peak of the car break-ins in September, and Officer Tynes made an arrest on September 14th in Sherwood Village, Sherwood Forest. There were no more the rest of the year there. And there were no car break-ins during the month of December. So it's a fickle thing. Our strategies were working. They have been working with the park and walks. The right people, I believe, were in jail too. And the right people probably got out of jail. And that's why you're seeing this a little bit, a slight uptick. I mean, 1 or 2 is not a problem, but we don't want to see 3 or 4. So we're jumping on it right away. We did the crime end stats in March. I will say this, and continuing with our training now that we're getting back up to speed. Sergeant Sharp will be the last one to return after he went through some surgery. But Sergeant Burrell will be attending in March the first line supervision course. We had Sergeant Sharp attended it a few months back, and that's the first 2 times that, in my understanding, that we have sent people to first line supervision school. So all our supervisors will have gone through this first line supervision course. It's a 2-week course, and Officer Battaglia will be attending FTO training. So we'll be looking forward to that with all the training going on there. At the end, my end of the year synopsis, looking at the property crimes, the car break-ins, I compared it to 2018. When I got here in May, I remember that I had to go back and hand enter the last 3 months of 18, all the stats, but I was able to get caught up so I could do the comparative study. We had 35 car break-ins in 2018. We had 22 last year. And I could say there was but 3, October, November, December combined, and disregard December because there were none. So there was a sharp decline. Once we were out there, we did a couple overtime undercover details. We did catch people. I enlisted the aid on a number of issues with the county that helped us out from the Northside District, Intercoastal, Intercoastal District. 2018, when I include all burglaries, including attempts, including curtilage, including not the cars, but burglaries, occupied and otherwise, there were 30 in 2018. There were 18 last year. Grand theft autos, we were a little higher. There were 10 this year. There were 8 last year. But we still were very impressed with the 40% decline in burglaries, as I alluded to earlier. All types of thefts, including grand theft, petty theft, they did go up from 16 last year to 24 this year, meaning 2019. The robberies went up. There was 1 in 18. There were 3 this year. Of the 3, 2 were, one was the UPS driver, we solved that, and one was the lady followed by Miami Shores Publix. We solved that one as well, and when the guy went back and then followed another woman, this time into the shores. The other one, the other robbery, was a gentleman held up at gunpoint just outside the gas station, but in our jurisdiction by a couple feet. If the wind would have been a little stronger, he might have ended up in the shores or in the city. It's a robbery, it's our robbery. It's not to diminish it, but it wasn't an El Portel issue per se. It just mattered that he just stepped over in the boundary, and that's where it happened. So those were the 3 robberies that we did have. 1 was strong-armed, 2 were armed. As far as arrests go, last year in 2018, there were 50 arrests made of all type. This year, there were 61. So there was an increase in the arrest, an increase in going out there. It doesn't mean more arrests, more crime. It means that you're being more vigilant and jumping on things that need to be jumped on. If there was no crime, I wouldn't care, if there were arrests or not. But there was some crime. We did make arrests on it. The officers have been aggressive. They've been vigilant and dealing with a lot of the issues that lead more to property-type crimes. The park and walks have gone a long way. I have some statistics here on that, because I mark them down by the minute. So we did over 12,000 minutes. We started this in May. So if we were gonna prorate it for the whole year, divided by the months, and then by the whole year, it would have been 20,000 some odd minutes, or 344 hours over the whole year that the officers are out of their car walking around. Now, if you really look at it, it's not a big deal, but it's 300 more hours than I believe were done in the past. And they do run across something, and I always tell them, just walk the block once. Don't end up 5 blocks down, an emergency goes out, and now you're doing wind sprints back to the car. You know, you can find the next block, you could walk around the block, say hi to people, wave. The nighttime officers are a little bit more cautious, but they've set up too. I know Officer Tynes and Riveron have just set up and watched things on foot, and you can see a lot of things. Only thing is, they gotta get on the radio, either with their backup here or from Biscayne Park, once, because you know they're gonna take off running, so that's a strategy. It seems to be working. We have assisted other agencies, both fire and police, 186 times this past year. So, and we write reports every time we do that, so they're busy with the reports, writing that. We handle 116 dispute calls. We wrote 555 traffic tickets, and we gave just as many warnings. The warnings are gonna be lower, because I just started counting warnings, separating from all warnings. I broke them down from code enforcement warnings, I broke them down from traffic warnings. So prorated, it would be about equal. We give as many warnings as we give summons, and that's fine. We also set up on some traffic details in some areas. When we heard the complaints come in, we set up the decoy car in a variety of areas that seem to have helped. And that, moving forward, we're gonna continue to do that, work the details, jump on the crimes as they pop up immediately, and stay pretty proactive about things like that. And again, being receptive to the needs of the community. If there's an issue they have, we jump on it right away. We did have a concern in early December about speeders on 87th Street, and yes, there are. And we put out we had that out for a couple of weeks. We don't usually leave it out that long in one spot, but the complaints diminished so much, and I even thought there was an officer coming into work once sitting there. It was that car just sitting there. So I know it's having the right effect. It's slowing people down. Now we moved it to another area. We want to keep them moving and set up now on any sort of property type crime. So we got it moved all over the decoy cars we're using. And that's basically it in a nutshell. But I'll be, field any questions you may have concerning the stats or moving forward.
I have two. Are we gonna, I know traditionally we've always had the stats on the website. Are they on the website? I mean, I have not checked.
They are
Okay.
on the website already.
On all the tickets that you said that were issued for 2019, do you have a breakdown of how many there were for speeding?
I don't.
You know,
I do not.
it'd be good to know if you can, if there's a way that's not too labor intensive.
I could probably move forward doing that in
Okay.
a second. I don't have that now, but that's something I can
Okay.
institute, yeah.
And is it too complicated to find out if the speeders were Upper residents or, outsiders? Might be
Yeah,
a little
I
too
mean,
cumbersome,
we could put out
but,
some so early in the year. We could see if we've got anybody for speeding, because that's probably not the most profound ticket we're writing. I mean, there's a variety of other tickets, but that's simple enough to do.
okay.
And then we can just break it down. I'll just put a directive out on that. That'll be easier
Okay.
to keep track of.
Any questions from the committee to our chief? Well, thank you. Thank you so much that, I do believe that, in my opinion, although there was a bit of a, I don't like using the word struggle, but challenge in December with some of the officers being out, I see them around. And I don't know if it's the cars that are parked that we have around, but I do see them out and about, and I see a lot of the lights at night, the white and the red and green going around, whether I'm coming home and things like that. When I'm leaving the house in the morning, I generally see them there at the school. So, I will tell you, I see them everywhere. So that's always a great thing. And I encourage that, and I think that comes from all of us. I think we all love that, seeing them around and the lights on, and them especially out on foot. I think that's so key.
They've been doing a great job. I mean, I can't be any prouder of them. And, in times of adversity, when they can get together and really get through the problem, that's what defines a police agency, I think, regardless, again, how big or small that department is. And they've really came to the table with everything we were going through. And Lord knows what we could go through in the future. But it's nice to know that everybody did participate, did get involved, and they were very concerned about the residents and getting everything done right, and keeping the crime low and just being there for the citizens and for their fellow officers. So I'm extremely proud of them, and I could sit here all night and talk about what I feel about how they're doing, so.
Yeah, and it's always great to have them present at the events. Many years ago, we had made a decision. We did a resolution resolving that we would always have a police officer at events for just number one, presence and community policing, but just for safety for the community and for everybody that was there. So having them there for Christmas and the Thanksgiving, incredibly grateful that Thanksgiving was a little bit intensive with all those big trucks coming in, and it always helps when there are police officers there because people will tend to listen to them a little bit more in uniform than just, an average, regular citizen in civilian clothes. So thank you.
Thank you.
So do we want to go into the track report, or do you want to talk about any highlights that we have coming up for 2020 that maybe you all are working on that you'd like to let us know? Any strategies or new hires possibly for 2020?
We have we want to enhance what we call now the part-time compensatory, and that's just a matter of semantics. They would call auxiliary reserve. Technically, by how FDLE classifies them in their tracking report, they're part-time officers, which is good. That means auxiliary and reserve, they have to be under the supervision of a part-time or full-time officer. So that defeats the purpose. Knowing they're part-time officers, they can come in, fill in a gap if somebody has to go home sick or somebody calls out or something, and they can work out here. So we're trying to enhance that. We have somebody, we're going through the final steps, I believe at the council meeting. He will be sworn in here at the end of the month, and then we have somebody in the pipeline ready to come as well. Quality people, they were in law enforcement quite some time, mature, and that's what I'm looking to do. Then we can have dates and plug in where they can come in on a more regular basis, and I think that will be one of the things we're looking to do. As far as any crime strategies now, I would just say this, because when we do the ops plan for whatever it is that may come up, I can tell you just right off the bat, regardless of the crime, there's going to be a quick response to it, and then it'll be all hands on deck to get out there. If we have to do a special overtime detail, so be it. If we have the manpower on duty, we'll do that. We may be able to use an undercover vehicle, set up surveillances. We got some things in plan too with the county to work on a couple issues. We did notify them of the speeding issues on 5th because the donuts in the street went up to their jurisdiction. So obviously they might have moved up north because we've been driving around and waving each time we see them, being all neighborly and stuff. They wave back, I think they wave back, but it's an issue. We're going to need their assistance. I already put it out to the lieutenant. I go to the intel meetings, we discuss it. So same thing when they helped us out with Largemont and the rash of shootings when we had the El Portel residents concerned about, obviously and for good reason, the shootings over in Largemont and where the bullets are going. And we worked with them on a couple details with our officers across there, working hand in hand with the county. So that went well. So anytime they do something to help us, we will be working with them with our El Portel cars alongside their Miami-Dade cars.
And it'll come out on Channel 4 probably, right?
It could.
I want to applaud you. What did you say? Let's call it what it is. They're not pirates, they're thieves.
Correct.
So that was the last two were great. I think one of them was solving a crime, and the other one was about the packages. And I don't remember what the other one was. There was two recent back-to-back for Channel 4
Right.
that came out for the police department. So it's nice. It's really great to get texts from my colleagues when it's positive things that come out of the news. So that was very exciting.
Thank you.
And then I also want to, wanted to let you know that I received an email from to a couple that came to, I had a new resident town hall back during Florida Government Week. And I have not forwarded to you, I apologize, but I got an email complimenting Officer V and great extensive detail. And I forgot to mention at the December council meeting, so I apologize, but I wanted to mention it at this meeting, and I will forward both of you the email. They were complimenting him on how thorough and polite he was on something that they needed.
I'll convey the message.
okay.
But thank you very much.
And I'll forward it to you all.
Thank you.
Let's go, does the committee have any questions for the chief, for the manager, before we go to track report? So let's,
Not necessarily, Matt, but as far as the manager really didn't say much. I don't know if there's something that she.
We're gonna go through track report.
Okay, all right. Well, I didn't know if there's something else that she wanted to say. Go ahead.
Well, just to answer that, the chief is thorough in what the plans and what has happened over the last 7 or 8 months that he's been with us. But I want to add that we are planning for the future and for 2020 with the fleet management. We're looking into an alternative, which would be from a rental, enterprise leasing, as opposed to buying cars and then spending so much in repairs. And then we've got a vehicle graveyard out here on the side of, so we want to eliminate that and those costs, and that's going to be a lot more efficient and better for our officers and for their safety to have vehicles that are, maintained and well-maintained. We still have the new cars that we purchased a couple of years or 3 years ago, and they will eventually be rotated out. But if we do this plan with Enterprise, it will be really helpful to our fleet. Other departments or other agencies are doing it, and that's going to be really, really helpful. And just to applaud the work that Chief Magnuson has done over these last 7-8 months. I mean, he's been amazing. He's able to tackle that McGrath report, the FDLE shortfalls, and his involvement with the community, the middle school, with the council. I mean, he's done a fantastic job and in a department that really needed him. So I applaud your work, and I appreciate you. So yeah, we can move on to tracking.
Even to last night, I got a request from a resident to host the Boy Scouts here. And she said to me, we always do it in Miami Shores. And she's, it was from the St. Rosa Lima PAC 305. And she's like, well, we have a new chief and we have our own police department. Can we come to El Portal? So I sent over an email to the manager and chief. And I'm like, can we all host the Boy Scouts? Chief's like, sure, one night. And it was, literally the first day back to school. It was last night, and there was about 28 boys here, all eager and excited with their moms and dads and grandmothers, and they had so many questions for the chief. So that was also it's pretty nice, and the chief was right there. I'll do it. So all those things are definitely appreciated.
Thank you.
All righty, so let's go right into the tracking report. And if need be, we can delete or so on and so forth. You can walk us through either the manager or the chief if you want to talk about each one. So you tackled the McGrath report with regards to it. Do you have a copy?
I do not.
Here, you can have this, and I'll share with
Okay.
Okay. Okay. You don't have one? Okie dokie. So the first we have is the McGrath report update, which I know you touched on.
Yes, I'll start, Chief. We actually talked with our McGrath Consulting today, just asking about some issues related to staffing and labor. We are pretty clear on all of the McGrath recommendations. We've addressed pretty much everything. Is there anything left, Chief?
The property room's ongoing.
Yeah.
And I will have to compliment Officer Owen for
Yes.
the work he's done and the methodical work he's doing to get it done. And there's some more to do, but it's night and day.
It
And once
is.
we get it done, we're gonna call him in to let him audit and inspect again, and we'll be good to go. But it's night and day, and reached out to the county and the city for some of the evidence that's ancient that we need to get rid of. And we're waiting to hear that and get word back on them. The company they use, I got it back from the city already. I'm trying to see if we can piggyback on them, so I'm waiting to hear that. Because that would have to go higher than the person I was speaking to, so I'll wait to hear from that. It's just a matter of cleaning stuff out. That to me is my main concern right now. I was just taking notes here, and a lot of these items are basically done. The CGIS, when it said assign an appropriate somebody's skills, reassign for patrol, well, we can't reassign anybody for patrol. We need them out there. So it was Officer, now Sergeant Burrell, that took the lead on that and got everything on. We passed the audit. So, I mean, we're down here on this stuff. The evidence is the issue. It's not that much of an issue.
It's under control.
We're just about there. CGIS is done. Directing, coordinating, and all the stuff there with the monthly reports, with updates, that's done. We have been recruiting the part-time, not the full at this point, but for the part-time, non-compensatory, getting the right people there. We're worked on that. And I would say a great majority of everything on here has been done.
Right.
Now, there's a little more to go, but it's coming, and It's nothing that's eye-opening, the number one ranked things are done. We jumped on that right away, and I think of everything, the policies and procedure review and changing
Right.
that and getting that was done within
ago.
weeks when I was here. And giving everybody, so they knew what was expected of them on the jump drive, their copies, so. Yeah, I'd say the McGrath report, it's something that's good to keep up with, it's good to stay sharp and see where we're maybe lacking a little bit. However, the vast majority of things they've said that needed to get done have been done.
Great, okay.
And the same applies, I'm going on to FDLE inspections. The same applies to that. We actually just got the letter or the notification from FDLE saying that we
Finally, yeah.
finally, everything's done and everything is satisfied, everything is complete.
And that comes on the heel of the David inspection that we had, that we do, they came in and audited us, we passed that. We do that quarterly, and and the Elvis, we set up each month, we get that, and that's Sergeant Burrell doing that, and then writing the letter. He's gonna, actually, his end of the, his last quarter one will be done over the next few days, and get that out of the way. As far as FDLE inspections too, when we have a new employee, Van Toth from FDLE will come by, go over the file. He sat down with V, he told him exactly everything, how he wants it done, and the last few files has been great, so V is the one that took it upon himself to make the files exactly how FDLE wants them, they're perfect. The stuff was in it, to be fair, before, just how everything's right in order now, and it just looks like a really good product, so.
And
We're
it
good with
does.
that.
It does. Circular rotundas, traffic calming, well,
Well, we got an email, that's one of the items on the legislative ask, and I believe it's on the agenda for January 13th.
right. So that's a positive, and we're looking forward to that. Same with the four-way stop, because we asked for circular
One
or
or the other,
four-way.
yeah.
Right, so we have either or.
And that's for the northwest side.
Right. Chief Manager Mayor's El Portel walkthrough. We conducted an evening walkthrough. We just need to schedule our daytime one.
Our
but-
daytime walkthrough, on foot ideally, I thought
Yes.
would always be better. We just have to schedule which one.
Yes, and we'll be scheduling that this quarter for sure. Village-wide speeding program. This is something we were addressing with the ordering of the new equipment. I think we're still waiting for the traffic calming sensors that was initiated by.
Was that
Councilperson-
ordered?
It was
Yeah.
ordered.
It was ordered?
It was ordered.
Yeah, we're waiting
Okay.
for them. Mhm.
And
So-
we'll be good to go with that. That, we got some ideas of where it needs to go and what we want to do with that, so that's gonna work out well.
Right. We are also in communication with the county, trying to get someone before us to talk about the speed reduction as well. That was something that we've been discussing with planning and zoning to deal with Northeast Second Avenue and also the west side, but we are waiting to hear back when we can get them here for a public meeting or a town hall or something so that we can discuss this need for the speed reduction. Because as you know, there was a speed, traffic analysis done, and we were rejected for reduction of speed limit. But I think it's important to bring those county persons here to talk to our residents so that maybe they can have a firsthand exchange to find out why we really are needing this reduction.
Well, and also, I remember when we talked about this also, and I wanted it on the tracking report, was because Miami Shores was approved village-wide for their speed limit to be reduced. And if there was a traffic calming study, well, I'd like to see it and compare it to ours. Every time we have one here, they're always saying that it doesn't meet the needs or doesn't meet the requirement or the basic or the minimum requirement for us to qualify for that. So if I would be curious, and I'd actually like to see the report or the traffic study that was done in Miami Shores that allowed them to qualify to reduce their village-wide speed from, I think it's at 20 or 25 village-wide, where we are at 30.
Right.
And we're much smaller, and our streets are not closed like theirs are. So when your streets are closed like theirs are, traffic is more inclined to be slower. You're not gonna rush and speed to a closed intersection like they have it. So I'd be really curious to see how they got their traffic study, if we can request that.
Well, I can, yeah, we probably could request that. I can say this. They did not rely on the county to do their traffic study. They paid for an independent company to do that.
Okay. But even so, the independent company would still have had to give in a report of some kind that would have been given to the county, so the county would have to approve it, because some of the roads are still county roads.
Absolutely.
So
Just,
so what does that report look like, whether it was private or not?
I'll request it, see if I can get it. But just know that maybe the
Yeah.
person doing the study
Uh-huh.
didn't find certain
And,
things that maybe
and you know, when
somebody
the
else would.
county comes to do a study, they only put the tape down for 24 hours, and then they take it off. So they determine whether or not a circular rotunda will go in or anything based on 24 hours.
Yeah. This could be a,
And it was a Tuesday they did it. They say they don't generally pick Mondays and they don't pick Fridays. They pick a Tuesday through Thursday. Police stats, I believe we just covered that. I don't know if you all wanted to add anything else on police stats.
no. Just that I'm very pleased with the case closures by the department. I think it's an improvement. I'm really pleased with the closing these cases.
Community policing.
Well, that's what we practice every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. And by practicing every day, you mean by implementing being on foot and being a part of all of the events?
Correct.
And okay.
And the school especially, yeah.
Has anybody been assigned to ESAC? Because I know Sergeant Sharp used to go to ESAC at Horseman.
I don't believe so.
No?
We have to check back in. We'll pick
Okay.
that back up.
And I know that at the last quarter of last year, we assigned a police officer per senior. Have they been continuing visiting the seniors?
Well, they all do. They're
Okay.
all assigned.
They're all assigned,
It's
okay.
not one specific person. They do check on it, and then they'll give me updates if anything changes on the listing. Now, there were some, when they did our initial ones, they said, no, it's okay, you don't have to come in,
Yeah.
you know, and so we backed off a little bit.
So is
but
it the full-timers that do it, or the part-timers, or all of them?
Full-timers.
Full-timers, okay.
Full-timers. I mean, I gave it to the part-timers as well, but it's easier on the full-timers.
ESAC, that's what I was bringing up. We generally have one police officer on there, and it's been Ronnie Huffnagel or it was Sergeant Sharp. So I didn't know if maybe you wanted to contact, and it's not really the principal that does it, it's the chair of the ESAC. I can forward you the email, so
Okay.
you can have contact with the chair, okay?
Okay.
And they meet usually, I think it's the second Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Okay.
Do the Right Thing, I think you added that.
I added it, I set up, an introduction on email between the principal and the director of Do the Right Thing. Now, this was in early December, so maybe because of the holidays, nothing took off. I'll give it a couple more weeks, I don't want to be too pushy on it, but I know Mr. Lawrence was going to reach out to set up a meeting, and I was going to then sit in on it, but that has not happened just yet.
Okay. Next is, that's the speed tracker, the Councilperson Roman, so that's when you said it's been ordered, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then it's the COPS grants, Reginald Sam, is something that usually has to be done before the middle of the,
Right, I have not jumped on that yet.
okay.
Right. We did get notification it's time to renew.
Okay.
And Officer V is the one
He's
who
the one.
marshals it.
Oh, Officer V, okay. And that's a grant. Have we still been applying for the grants for we usually get like $1,000 here, $1,000 there. Have we been applying for them?
We haven't been applying for
No.
anything recently. We've been doing some other
Okay.
things, but we need to jump back into that.
I don't know if you wanted, if you have someone that can do it, but, you get $1,000 here, $1,000 there, and it usually goes to either vests or usually we'll say exactly what it can be for. Evaluations, police officer evaluations.
That was something that I believe would have come out of Human Resources. What I did have done, though, however, is I had them all back in early November, end of October, self-evaluations.
Okay.
So I did have that. And once we have the other evaluations, I'd like to do a comparison to them.
Oh, okay. Okay. Especially your officers that have been promoted, probably want to get. Schedule, let's talk about the schedule a little bit. I know that you've been sending us the schedule regularly,
Yes.
and I know that there've been some, the changes to it, if there was an officer out or things like that. So how are we looking with the schedules?
We're looking good. And again, Sergeant Burrell has done a fantastic job about staying on top of it.
He's the one who does the
Sending
schedule?
He does the scheduling as well. The
Okay.
administrative functions like that, he's taken
Okay.
upon himself, and, he's done that in the past too. And he can't split it right now with the other sergeants, so he's doing it all. And making the calls to bring people in and then updating the schedule as need be.
Okay. So Sergeant Burrell is doing the schedule, and he helps with the FDLE inspections.
Yeah, well, he's
Okay.
a major component on
Okay.
that as well. Not the FDLE so much, the CJIS.
Sieges.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
FDLE,
sieges.
that'll be something that I'll
Okay.
deal with, but we'll all get
Okay.
involved in that as time draws near for whatever they need.
Ring, it's great to have Officer Battaglia back.
Yes.
So it's, tell him welcome back. It's nice to have him back with us. I know he was here last night. Ring, I don't know if it was there for a particular reason. I think we had some that we were giving away. I don't know why Ring was on there. I didn't put that on there.
I think it was around the time,
When you got the
when we
award?
got the award in Chicago.
And now Ring came out with an alarm system.
Yeah. And we still utilize their videos. We're still, it's a big help. It helps us greatly to see what's going on. Sometimes people just send it and say, see, in the middle of the night, there's just people walking down the street. No crimes being committed. Nonetheless, people shouldn't be walking down the street unless it's a major thoroughfare at 3 in the morning. So it alerts us to where we can start shifting over some resources and see what we need to do in some areas. And so they've been pretty good citizens. Some gentleman came in today with the phone to show me what happened last night. So it's helping.
You know, I was at a couple of residents' homes in the last couple of weeks, and besides Ring, there's a few others.
Yes.
There's a lot of homes that have that, whatever you want to call it, that you ring the bell and it's a camera, Ring or whatever's comparable to it. But a lot of residents have it, and
Yes.
I just didn't know which one probably was better in terms of viewing. I don't know if you all.
The Ring has the portal. We've been using the Ring, but there was a crime that was just solved a little while ago. They used something called Nest. And, you know, it's like Taser. I mean, everybody uses that. I talked to one of the kids yesterday when they were talking about Taser. It's really an ECD, electronic control device. Taser's like a Band-Aid. It's an adhesive bandage. Everybody calls them Band-Aids. Everybody calls that the ECD a Taser. So it's like, now I think everybody's going to call these devices the Ring, despite what the company is. I mean, it's
Yeah,
good for the Ring.
yeah.
It's not good for the other
Other
companies
companies.
until they do something differently. I
Yeah,
mean,
Rings.
aside from Band-Aid, what do you got? Curad, I guess, if your kids are young enough to
Yeah, like
remember.
Clorox and
Yeah.
bleach, right?
Right, right, that's right. So, you know,
Yeah.
they branded it well, and it's not to, you
No,
know,
yeah.
we can't play favorites or anything, we don't, but
Ring did definitely
Ring.
brand themselves well. All right, so October's, although it's far away, it'll probably be here before we know it. October's National Crime Prevention Month. We put that on there just so it's in our minds. And then the first Tuesday in August is National Night Out. And we also just put that so it stays fresh in our minds and we don't forget. And then the forfeiture funds, which is the monies, that's where the monies came out for the speed tracker, right?
correct.
Okay.
But there's something to add there too. In looking forward, you asked before about what the plans are for 2020. I got with the director of HIDA. I'm friendly with him, but we spoke again yesterday, just to keep it in mind. If we have the opportunity to send a person out to HIDA, and it would probably be under the auspices of the DEA, they can work over there, and in turn, we would get cuts of forfeitures that come in based on the work we do and how we do it. Doesn't necessarily have to come out of El Portel. We're just assisting them. And that can work wonders for us budgetary-wise, equipment-wise, so that's something I'm looking to do. I'll see how that plays out in the next few months. But he says he's good to go, just as soon as, as we have the manpower to do so.
Yeah, and the Homestead cars, if only one worked out of the 5, then let's just auction them off. We've auctioned in so many cars in the past, $500, $250, whatever, just sort of, they move out of here if they're not gonna work well. Officer training, you talked about where you're sending Sergeant Burrell to supervising, and I think that's great. You're sending Officer Battaglia to FTO?
Yes.
Field Training Officer?
Yes.
Very good.
And as the training comes up, sometimes there's one-day training. I know I'll even be going to a free one in February on terrorism. I mean, and that was signed up for before the recent events or the concerns. But it's important. I'll be going to also next Wednesday, just to step in on the Miami Police. They're doing something with the Miami Shield, where they get with the community, and it's more like a see something, say something. They go out and they help out with anything, and they said they would come here if we wanted any assistance as well. So I'll drop in on that. But you have the other officers, depending on what their interests are, we can get the training, and a lot of times through the county or the city, it's free for us, or very minimal in cost, and I want to get them as much training as I can. Of course, at the same time, keeping in mind, being staffed, but the training should be paramount. I think that will make for a better, much better department, so.
And speaking of training, as we go into disaster emergency preparedness plan, which is the next one, I think that we should not wait till there's a disaster. So I would say, either March, just take a look at what we have in terms of equipment and what's necessary, and do a run through of what if there was a disaster, and sort of do like a what do you call it, a mock-up, or acting that out to see, make sure that we're prepared.
You know, we discussed that, and I know most of us were thinking in terms of hurricanes. But I've also put it out to the officers in between. You got a rail here. We just had following some of the recent threats, some concerns here. Is El Portel a target? No, but neither was Watertown, Massachusetts, but that's where it all went to heck after the Boston bomber. So we have to be ready as well. And they're on their P's and Q's, the officers here. Just because we're, a small locale, we do have a Super Bowl coming here. And, bad people stay in good areas to lay low. And so it's important that we don't lose sight of that. And so we're on top of that. And we've had these discussions amongst ourselves as a police department for this sort of emergency preparedness, stepping away from the hurricane, obviously. And we stand on top. We'll keep an eye on the equipment and things like that. I did do an org chart, a disaster org chart that was done a couple of months ago, forwarded to you, in the time of an emergency, how we would all set up here in the village. So we're one step ahead there, knowing exactly where everybody has to be and the pieces that have to fit, so we're good.
Even and I know we've talked about it, and I know things are time and money probably being first, but even in our own, the front area, the police area, the police car area, the gate, I don't know if the gate works anymore, so, we talked about that in the past. Just even from the eyes of a police officer or the eyes of a chief, just taking a look at just all of us here. I've many times have told the clerk that that door is left unlocked and her door is left unlocked, and sometimes she's sitting in the office and people just show up right at her door. And at least the manager's got some kind of, So I just think that all of that, and it's not to say anything's going to happen, but it's always good to, kind of do that mental walkthrough as a department for ourselves here, for you all that are here every day,
Absolutely.
I know you guys have put cameras and things like that, but,
Agreed.
Agreed. In fact, we did use some of the forfeiture funds for the gate. We don't have it fixed yet, but that was earmarked for that, as well as the cameras were paid for by the forfeiture
For the
funds too.
forfeiture.
But yes, we are aware and we agree. Our front area is not fortified, and we need to do something about that and ensure safety. But we'll work on that.
All righty, Citizen Crime Watch, I'm sure Battaglia, when he gets up and running, he'll jump on the boat wagon again with that. I know
Yes.
the last one that we put a sign up, I think was on the west side, I believe,
That's
right?
correct.
An Operation Village-wide cleanup, we did not do one in 2019. I think that was the first year we didn't get to do one, but we can't do it all. Maybe we'll schedule one for the fall when the weather gets a little nicer, even though some of the kids at the school want to do it monthly, so we'll see what happens. Any questions from the committee to the chief or to the manager? No? Any other comments?
No, ma'am.
No? We do want to thank Doral. We do have 2 cars, though those are usable.
Yeah.
Is
They're very
there,
nice.
is there a plan to get them painted or,
We got them all, set up for the tags and everything else, the proper transfer. There'll be a plan to get them painted out,
Okay.
sure. But everything's almost good to go with that,
and are they going to be assigned to full-timers?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think we have some full-timers that drive older cars, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Let's see what else. I think that's it from my end. Anything else before I go to good and welfare? Chief, manager, anything else?
No, ma'am.
I missed, okay. Hearing none, anybody in good and welfare would like to come up, welcome, Happy New Year, Orlando, nice to see you. Happy New Year, Robert, nice to see you. Any other comments from good and welfare? All right. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn, Madam Mayor.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Werman. Our public safety meeting adjourns at 7:17 PM. Thank you and have a good night.